Hello, everyone. I am Alicia Krause, and we are here with the wonderful Janice Dean on our inaugural episode of the Washington Examiner Newsmaker series. You probably recognize her from Fox News, where she is a senior meteorologist. She's also the author of a great book, Mostly Sunny, and an amazing series that I know Washington Examiner sometimes writer Bethany Mandel is a huge fan of with her kids. Some children's books about the weather and a frog in the weather. Janice, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. And congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Especially because last night / today is still election day, apparently. There is a lot happening across the country. What are your thoughts? What's the buzz?
It seems like the longest November 3rd of all time. And I think it's going to continue until maybe Friday. But I'm not surprised. I mean, this is 2020 and, we are to expect craziness, I think. So the fact that we're down to the wire, people are still counting. There were so many mail-in ballots. It's very apropos for this year altogether.
And interestingly, there wasn't the blue wave that everybody expected. And there have been really great gains specifically for female politicians across the country. New Mexico is making news because all 3 of the congressional electors there are now women of color, 1 Republican, 2 Democrats. And a congresswoman from your state, Elise Stefanik, is getting the praise that she rightly deserves because her PAC, I think, helped elect a brand new 11 women to serve as Republicans in Congress. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's fantastic. And I have to tell you, listen, I'm not a political person. And before I got into sort of a political storm, I like the fact that people didn't know who I voted for. But I will tell you that Elise has been very good to me and my family. From, the tragedy that we've experienced here in New York. She's been very supportive, and I know we're going to talk about that, but I think it's important here in New York. I have a bit of an issue with the governor, which we're going to talk about, but Elise and many of the lawmakers were elected again that have been helping me with the situation that I'm in with the governor.
And you referenced that on Twitter. You said that you think some of the election results on the local and I'm assuming federal legislative levels last night, you found encouraging, that you think it's some level of pushback against the governor. Can you explain why?
I think so. I think a lot of the lawmakers that have helped me with the situation that I'm in, my husband lost both of his in-laws to coronavirus in elder care facilities. And again, I've never been a political person, but I've kind of been thrust into this political spotlight of meeting a lot of Albany lawmakers. And I will tell you that many of the ones that have been encouraging and also have supported an independent bipartisan investigation into Cuomo's leadership during this time of COVID and coronavirus in New York City. Most of them have won again. And I've received phone calls and texts from family members who are going through similar situations that my family is going through. And they've kind of said, this perhaps is laying the groundwork for an interesting election when Cuomo is up in 2 years.
Yeah, and for those who might be unaware, let's walk through what exactly happened. And of course, you've been at the forefront of being incredibly transparent and asking him questions about his failed leadership of sending COVID positive patients back to nursing home facilities, which led to how many elderly and vulnerable that ended up dying?
Correct. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so outspoken, is because the governor continues to dodge and blame others about the executive order that he had in place for 46 days, putting COVID positive patients into nursing homes. And the issue that I have, or at least one of them, is that we don't know the total numbers. So his health department continues to say we've had over 6,500 deaths from COVID in nursing homes. But the problem is they are not counting the elderly that got COVID in their elder care facilities and died in hospitals, like my mother-in-law. That's what happened to her. She got COVID in her assisted living residence, was transported to the hospital, died in the hospital, but her number doesn't count. And the Governor Cuomo, he's the only one in all of the 50 states that does not count COVID patients that died in the hospitals from COVID that they received or they got in their elder care facilities. And some of the estimates are at least double of what he is reporting.
I mean, you referenced there like that your mother-in-law doesn't count, and it is so hard to just hear that phrase. It's awful how many Americans have died of COVID, and it's incredibly difficult to think about the responsibility that politicians bear for the unnecessary deaths. And I mean, every human life counts and should count, and it seems weird to talk about it in these statistical type numbers. I mean, this kind of reeks of a cover-up, though. I mean, isn't this order just like missing from the internet now?
Yes, they've scrubbed the March 25th order from the internet. You can't find it on the New York website, the health website. But the internet is forever, and I have copies of that controversial order that specifically says that nursing homes must take COVID-positive patients. And at the time, they couldn't test either, so they could not discriminate if the person was COVID positive. So that's, you know, he, in interviews, when he is asked the question, he blames everyone except the person that signed the order, which is himself, Governor Andrew Cuomo, and his health commissioner, Howard Zucker. So when he is asked the question, it's amazing to me how many other people and how many things he blames except the person that signed the order that was in place for 46 days. He's blamed God. He's blamed Mother Nature, the New York Post, Fox News, the president, the CDC. He's blamed the nursing home workers, the visitors. By the way, we were not allowed to visit my in-laws before they died. And at one point, he also blamed the victims themselves because they're old and they die.
Wow. And at this time, too, when he signed this order, wasn't the Comfort and Javits Center available and open as emergency facilities for COVID response?
Correct. And that's another reason why I want answers to these questions that he continues to not be asked. Why didn't he use the facilities that the government provided him, the Javits Center, the Comfort Ship? There were other makeshift hospitals, and there has been good journalism about these facilities that were provided. There was one article, I believe it was in the New York Times, where the doctors and the nurses that were part of the makeshift hospitals, they were on social media all day because they weren't seeing any patients coming into their facilities. So that's what even makes my anger worse, because there were places that COVID patients could have been sent, and yet he continued to send them in droves. Thousands of COVID positive patients, over 6,000 of them, were sent back to elder care facilities.
So you just referenced some good reporting in the midst of this, but it seems as if there really has been a media blackout, and they've kind of brushed over Cuomo's response, not just with his order sending the elderly and the most vulnerable back into nursing homes when they were sick, but just his response to COVID in general, statewide. And I think very specifically, a lot of people think about him and de Blasio in New York City. So who do you think has done the best in the media, other than yourself, obviously, of covering this and asking the tough questions? Then who do you think is the most culpable for his cover-up while he goes on this book tour and kind of pretends like it didn't happen?
It's such a tough question, because the reason why I'm speaking to you today, the reason why I'm speaking out and I'm an advocate on behalf of the thousands of families that have lost loved ones is because I wasn't seeing him being asked the questions. He was going on CNN with his brother and joking about getting, a cotton swab up his nose. And meanwhile, my family members had died. Thousands of New Yorkers are dead, over 30,000. And he's joking about getting a COVID test. he would go on channels like Sunday Morning on CBS, and they would talk about his love life and how he's the love gov. So I was getting so frustrated that these questions weren't being asked, because I think if it was a Republican governor, he would be in front of a jury right now. I mean, there would be no reason for my outrage, because the rest of the media would be covering this. I think they bear some responsibility of this. And I'm lucky that I have a platform. And I will tell you, in the beginning of this, my husband did not want me to be vocal. He's a very private person. He's very guarded about his feelings and his family. But because he was seeing the governor going on and not being asked these questions about the 30,000 deaths and the nursing home tragedy, that's when he said, okay, I think you should be somebody who can act as a spokesperson. So I was lucky enough. I feel very grateful that Fox gave me a platform. I am not a political person. This is not about politics. It's about getting answers for my family and the thousands of other families that deserve answers.
And everyone should know that your husband is a very dedicated and heroic New Yorker who was there on 9/11 with his fire department, experiencing the best and the worst of humanity all at the same time. So like you mentioned, this is not political for him. And you guys have two adorable sons. I mean, they're becoming young men. As a mom, how have you been coping with the lockdown, shutdowns, and changes, and working from home and all of the above?
I think that's $1 million question. I think every mom...
I just need the advice. That's why I'm asking for myself.
It's very tough. My kids are back in school, knock wood. But I will tell you, in the beginning of this, with the online learning and the Zoom, it was daily meltdowns, and not just from the children, but from the mom, because you're trying to juggle doing your job and also being the teacher and the caretaker. And there have been many times where I have just melted down, and I think it's important as fellow moms that we just have to tell each other that we just have to take it day by day. Mm-hmm. It really is one of the situations that if you think 2 days in advance, a week in advance, a month in advance, it can drive you absolutely crazy. I'm lucky I have the support of my husband. I have wonderful friends. I have wonderful neighbors. We truly are all in this together. And I think that kindness goes a long way. And, I'm lucky enough that I have a lot of moms on text messaging that are there for me when I need them. But listen, it's tough. I'm not going to lie.
And final question there. You've been really open and honest about your journey with MS. And you're, one of the people at the forefront, a celebrity, a spokesperson, a well-known name that has MS. And I think it's wonderful. I have friends that are liberal and conservative that appreciate your transparency there. As a person who really is at risk, especially with living in a pandemic right now, what is your message as an at-risk person to other people who are at risk in this crazy new world that we live in?
Well, listen, I'm a big advocate of listening to the doctors, listening to the science. But you also have to live your life. And because I am a high-risk person, I do try to take the extra precautions. I make sure that I am on time with my medication. I get an infusion every month. I see my doctor as much as it's possible. We do the telehealth thing. Mm-hmm. You have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. For a while there, I think I gained the COVID-19 10 pounds. Right? I think we all did.
Or 20, but the 20.
Right. But then I started to realize, what? The best thing I can do for my family is try to be the healthiest that I can be. So I've been very cognizant of trying to be as healthy as possible, trying to go out on those walks, trying to, do as much as I can to stay healthy. But, you know, I think it's important. When I was diagnosed 15 years ago with multiple sclerosis, and I really thought my life was over. I thought my career was over. I thought who was going to want to marry me? I'm never going to have children. I was really in a dark place. But in some ways, being diagnosed with an illness makes you appreciate things a lot more. And I am so grateful for the moments that I have, and I've had 2 beautiful children. I have a really supportive network of friends and a great place at work where they support me and, you know, give me what I need. And I am also very grateful for the people that I've met after, you know, saying that I am someone who has a chronic illness. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not on social media that someone says, I have MS, and I'm so glad that I see you every day doing what you do, and it gives me hope. And sometimes that's all we need, you know, is that one glimpse or that one person that can give you hope to get through the day.
Well, I mean, the title of your book is very apropos for your personality of being mostly sunny despite the stormy skies, not just in your personal life, but also for the entire country. Janice, it's been such a pleasure, and thank you so much for making time for us today.
I am honored that you asked me to come on your program. Good luck. I love watching you on social media, and I'm here if you need me anytime.
Thank you. Thank you so much.